Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes and I'm so happy you're with us today. One of the two most important lessons that Jesus taught all of us, and that doesn't even matter what your religion might be, he taught all of us. One of those two most important lessons is forgiveness. Forgiveness and love. Religion doesn't even enter into it. These are the two spiritual lessons that Jesus taught. They were the two great gifts to us. And until perhaps a couple of years ago, I never had found an expert who taught forgiveness so well that I thought we could at last make her our special Seek Reality guru of forgiveness. But that was when I met our lovely, beautiful guest for today. Until then, we just would talk about A Course in Miracles, which Jesus channeled, where, of course, the miracle that he taught there was a thick blue book full of tiny print that is, of course, all about forgiveness. And it took that big a book for Jesus to really teach us A Course in Miracles. And that miracle, of course, all comes, as he said, in one size. So again, no matter what happens in our lives, we always must and we can forgive it, whatever happens. That miracle is forgiveness. It goes hand in hand with love, and we must learn to forgive universally so we can love universally. And fortunately, Jesus' method of automatic, prevenient forgiveness works very well indeed. But our guest today teaches another approach to forgiveness that might work even better for you. Our guest, who is with us today, I think for the seventh time, is Brenda Reiss. Brenda is dedicated to helping people overcome obstacles that hold them back from living life to its fullest by guiding them through a special 5-step forgiveness process. She says that self-forgiveness helped her to transition out of victimhood and into the life that she was meant to live. Brenda has experienced these obstacles firsthand in the form of toxic relationships, eating disorders, you wouldn't believe it to look at her now, and anxiety, a lot of things that really consumed her everyday life when problems like these were allowed to control her life. And then she helped herself get beyond it, and she can help us too. She developed a very successful forgiveness coaching practice, and she has written a great little book called Forgive Yourself. I recommend her book to everybody. It's easy to understand. It doesn't take long to read, and I think everyone should read it. My wonderful friends, I'm going to give you 2 key points to explain why I think what Brenda teaches is so critically important. Same thing as I say that Jesus taught. Very important. First, and I want to be very frank about this, the people who wrong us do not care one single fig whether we ever forgive them. They do not care. Forgiveness of others is always the big gift that we give to ourselves. Always. Forgiveness is the greatest gift we can give to ourselves, no matter how hard it may feel. And second, many people don't even realize that the core problem at the center of their lives has to do with things for which they blame themselves. Self-forgiveness may, in your case, be something that you really desperately need to learn in order for you to live your own best life. Frankly, for many people, it's a whole lot easier to forgive others than it is to finally forgive ourselves. Brenda, I'm so glad to have you back. I've been looking forward to this so much. It's good to have you back with us today, and let's get at it.
Yes, thank you. Whenever I see your name in my inbox, it's like, yes, it just makes my heart so happy. It's just so true. It's like, oh, I love our conversations. I love the conversations you have with people, right? But I especially like ours.
Well, let's get to it. You always look terrific. I don't know how you do it, but
good lighting.
Do.
Good lighting.
Well, lighting is important. We have
to
admit that lighting is important.
Yes.
But you said when I said what should we talk about? You said well you were getting a lot of emails about self-forgiveness. I get them too. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's a really important piece. And I was kind of surprised because with everything going on, I was thinking that it would be more like forgiving outside of ourselves, right? Like, blaming and that's going on too. But what I really appreciated was that people were realizing more. I think people are realizing that it starts in here. It starts with us. And that's what I'm finding is like people want to feel better. They don't want to continue to blame. They don't want, especially the guilt.
Hmm.
They feel guilty. And it's kind of it's very the conversations I'm having aren't simple ones. They're pretty deep. And I really appreciate that because that's something that you and I have talked about
Yeah, a lot.
I think and believe in. And it's like, well, like you said, people outside of it, they don't care if we forgive them or not. It's about us. And there's a lot of in my world and in the forgiveness world that like I teach, it's we look at our outside of ourselves as a mirror, as a reflection of what's really kind of going on inside of us because we can't see it. Like we've talked about before, when we go to do self forgiveness, that's why I don't jump right into self forgiveness. We kind of skirt around it for a little bit because up in here, okay, attorney wise, I've got the judge, the jury, the defense attorney, the prosecutor, the perpetrator, the victim. I've got all those in my head. And I had, when we start to forgive ourselves, we have to ask who's forgiving whom because everybody wants a voice, and wants to be heard.
Yeah, and I think it's what I find is it's very hard for people to look in their own mirror and be frank with themselves about how they feel about themselves.
Yeah,
You,
the feelings,
yes,
so right, because people can't even name them.
yes. We feel it's hard for us. We always have good excuses for why we did things.
Mhm. Yes.
And that, I had to kill my children's pets because we didn't have room for them in the apartment we were going to. And I didn't realize how upset they would be. So they're going to have to get over it now. They have to grow up. I mean, they, the most awful things people have done, they can find a reason for it.
Yes.
And I try to explain to them that when they go to their own life review after their death,
Yes.
all the excuses they have now, they will be shorn of all those excuses. They do not have those excuses. They will look in that mirror and
Mm,
they will see what they did in their lives but they will see it always from the viewpoint of the people that they wronged.
mm,
And even if they can make excuses for the things they did, they will only see those things they did from the viewpoint of the people that they wronged, and they will find it's impossible to forgive themselves the way
mm,
they always can make excuses for themselves now. So what they've got to do before they die, and this is the most important thing, I'm talking to everybody listening to us now, and I'm saying this from my heart.
yeah.
The most important thing you can do in this lifetime is forgive yourself for everything you ever have done in your life. Heavy duty forgiveness now,
Hmm.
because you are going to have to forgive yourself big time after you have transitioned. Personal story. Personal story. I'm going to tell a story
Okay.
that I tell you for your sake. When I was trying to do research through, and this is kind of funny in a way, because I was trying to do medium research. Everyone asked me, who's a good medium? Who's a good medium? So I was trying to do medium research. And whenever you do that, you ask for the best possible medium names. And then
Yes.
you make appointments and then you go to the mediums. But the problem is, of course, that your loved ones get bored pretty quickly. So the first two or three readings you get are pretty good, right? But then your loved ones are bored silly. I've already come to you 3 times, Roberta. That's it. So after the first three readings, you get maybe my son-in-law always showed up. He was wonderful. And my mother-in-law always showed up. She was wonderful. Nobody else came. And mother didn't come. Nobody else came because they were, for Pete's sake, how many times do I have to come? They're just not going to come.
Oh my God.
But the third person who always showed up but never spoke was in the background. It was my father. I recognized him by his clothes, but he never spoke. Nobody could ever get him to speak. My father would be in the background. He never even came close. Even the best medium could not get him to say a word. And this went on whenever I consulted a medium for 20 years after my father's death. Finally, my daughter went to a medium, and my father spoke to her. Oh. What he said was, "Will you please tell your mother and your aunt that I am so sorry for messing up their childhood." Mm. He had gone through his life review.
Yeah.
And he had seen that his being an alcoholic until I was 11 and she was 10 had given us, frankly, between you and me, a crummy childhood.
Yes.
And he could not forgive himself for that.
Wow.
Apparently, he spent some time in the lower realms from that. And it was a very bad life review for him because he got to see how he affected his children. So word to the wise, everyone.
Yes.
Forgive yourself before you go through what my father went through.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you can do these horrible, we forgave him completely, of course. We never would have blamed him. But I could tell you other stories too about how long he spent in just trying to get over.
Wow.
Seeing how he had harmed his children in their childhood. I mean, I think he's okay now with a lot of help from my mother, who is quite a high level being. But don't do that to yourselves.
Nope. Not when there's a choice.
When you have the choice to spend effort in forgiving yourself now, learning self-forgiveness is not easy, but it's not impossible. It's something we can do. We just have to be frank with ourselves about the fact that we need to do it, and we need to do it well.
Absolutely. And I think having the awareness of that is key. Is like first, what you're helping people do is be aware of this by sharing stories. And that's really all we can do, right? It's kind of like the waiter with a dessert tray, right? It's like, I can't make you eat certain things, but I can sure entice you.
Yes, yes, right.
With certain desserts, right? It's kind of like, look at it this way. Try to teach people, because a lot of us, I think it's human nature is, why do we have to learn by fire? You know what I mean? It's like, instead of listening to your story and going, I'm going to heed that message and I'm going to take it with me and I'm going to learn from it. Nope. Instead, we go, no, yeah, okay, that's for her. I'm just going to keep hitting the wall over here anyway. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think some of us are coming to that awareness and noticing that, wait, maybe it doesn't have to be so hard. Maybe there is a simpler path, right, that I can take. And that is like that, doing our own life review while we're alive.
Yes. The first thing I think we need to understand and acknowledge is that God has already forgiven us.
Yeah.
God does not blame us for anything. Mm-mm. Many of us, because I think of the fact that Christianity is so harsh about this. I mean, Christianity shows us Jesus on the cross paying for all our sins, and we think, oh my God, I'm a terrible sinner. I mean, look what was done for me. Oh my goodness, how can I forgive myself for what Jesus went through? Erase that from every thought that you ever had because God never put Jesus through that, and God never, ever for a moment blames us for anything we do.
Mm.
Everything we do, think of your baby playing on the rug and he's got orange juice on his hand and oopsie, he spilled some orange juice on the rug. The worst thing you could possibly do, that's how God sees it. God loves us and God does not blame us for our little baby mistakes that we make when we're here because we're learning. We're just learning. We will get better. God loves us to pieces.
And I know, and who planted the thought that just because I'm an adult doesn't mean I'm not continuing to learn?
Right.
I
Oh,
mean, this is a
yes.
lifelong journey, learning about myself. I mean, hearing from a mentor of mine, actually was a sponsor in AA when I was getting sober. And she was saying, Brenda, this is a lifelong journey. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, no, lifelong and even after death. And
Yes.
she just
Yes,
looked me
so
straight
much
in the eye.
so.
Yeah. And it
Yes.
was my first awareness of I'm bigger than this human body, but it was like, oh, I get it, right? It helped me really feel those words and the vibration of,
Right.
oh, I'm constantly learning. Why am I beating myself up?
No, that just makes it so hard, unnecessarily hard for you, dear. Yep, exactly right.
Yeah, and it was just this like angel save, like, oh, it was just an awareness of like, oh, it was so,
Yes.
just that life-changing moment of, oh, I get it now. And I think that's partly what helps me to want to guide people towards that too, is just having this awareness of where, what have I learned? Where am I in this learning process? And really giving us ourselves the compassion and the
Yep.
kindness for continuing to learn. I mean, why do we think we've got it figured out or we have to have it figured out by 30 and then 40 and then
No, or even by 60 or
by 60?
even by 90.
Well,
Right.
exactly. And it's so funny because I remember hearing or being told that, the older you get, the less you will know. And that's where you want to be.
So true.
Well,
So
and I
beautifully
feel like
true.
that. I feel like
Yes.
before, I was like, yes, I know. I was just so ego. And then I got to this point of, yeah, I don't know. I just, I really don't know.
Oh. Was it Descartes who said that he only began to learn when he made himself forget everything he ever knew, and that was when he was halfway through life? Yeah, right.
Yes. Well, yeah. And I was just listening to something about, how our left brain, right brain, right,
Hmm.
works, right? Left brain analytical. We're always trying to figure stuff out. Right brain, is more of that compassionate, kind, artistic.
Yes.
And it was a scientist that lost the function of the left brain.
Right.
So for a long time, she was just in the creative space, in the connected, in the oneness. And she
Oh,
had to
right. How
be, right?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was in what I heard somebody call it the wordless zone, the wordless. Yeah.
Uh,
When we take
uh,
away the words are powerful, but when we sit underneath the words, like we were talking about,
uh-huh.
that's where we can find that compassion for self. We can
Right.
find that, gosh, I don't have to figure it out or know everything. What if I just allowed? What
Hmm.
if I just allowed myself to have this experience,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Maybe that can bring in, and I think that's the space of that self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, self-compassion. And because I can't give it to the world unless I have it within myself.
Oh, that's beautifully said. Exactly right. Perfectly right.
Yeah. And really understanding that more and more has been so good and healing for me. Going through this experience of this last few years of caregiving, right? My husband, which we've talked about before with, he was diagnosed with dementia and having to make some hard decisions and choices,
Yes.
but really spending a long time being angry I was angry. And then I had that imposter syndrome of, hey, I'm a forgiveness coach. You're not supposed to be angry. Right. And, and going through all of these feelings and all of these words I should and shouldn't. And, and
I
finally
know.
just yelling at God, going, give me compassion. I need compassion.
Right this minute.
I need it right now. I mean, just stomping my feet like a 2-year-old. I want it now. And then just hearing so beautifully, hearing, Brenda. I mean, just heard my name, Brenda. It starts with you.
Right.
Just this whoosh, calmness was like, oh,
Right.
it starts with me. And that was really this moment of just this awareness and just this noticing that really helped me to dive deeper into what was being reflected for me in this experience that I got to look at for my own self, my own
Yes.
life review. What can I now look at? And then I found, that it was reflecting for me this feeling of abandonment and betrayal that went back to my parents. I was carrying this energy of, right? So it's along the lines of patterns, right? These patterns that we carry in our lives so that we can learn and grow.
That's
And
right.
it was being reflected for me and my husband because he was so close to me so I could see it. It was like holding up a projector and this screen of, oh, oops, I have some dust bunnies here. I gotta clean out some more abandonment and betrayal here.
Yeah.
And it was powerful for me. So it took my sights off of him. He's the messenger, not the message.
But that's still awfully, awfully hard.
Oh, oh, I'm not saying it was easy.
No, no.
It's simple. We can simply say something,
Right, but it's not
but
easy.
no, no, as you know. Yes, but that got me on the path. It steered me back to where, oh, let me find within myself. How can I nurture me? How can I
Yes.
find compassion for me and all the parts of me that was wounded?
And you have to have compassion for yourself
Mhm.
first in order for you to really have it for others. Yep.
Absolutely. You have to. But then again, like we said before, it's one of the harder things to do, just because of the conflict and our societal conditioning.
Yeah.
But when we start to take baby steps towards just noticing what we're saying to ourselves, noticing where we're holding ourselves back, because we have an awareness, we just don't tune into it a lot of the time. And we start with, how do I talk to myself? Not nice a lot of times, but when we all of a sudden because we can't change something we don't know is there. So like, again, I don't know I have a choice to forgive, or I don't know how, I don't know I have a choice to change until I become aware.
Very important. And you have to be frank about what there is to forgive, or you can't forgive in the first place. And many people will not look frankly into that mirror. They will not. There's so much avoidance about what there is to see in themselves to forgive.
Yes.
When I ask that question, people won't even look me in the eye
Mm.
and answer that question. They'll say, well, okay, there was this, and then they look away and they don't, you must, when you talk to people, you must see that. They can't talk to you about whatever it was. Sometimes they know what it was,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, but they don't want to know. That's the other thing, is
well,
that
that's it. So
they
they
don't,
even though
yeah,
they'll dance around it, whatever the real thing was. And often when you hear it, when they finally go there, you'll think, well, you'll think to yourself, that's not that bad. Why are you afraid of it?
right.
But to them it is. So it really is. So if you can
Well,
get
it
that
is. And it's,
confronted,
well, because there's that shame, right? There's that shame
there's
of I
terrible
shouldn't be
shame
feeling.
associated with whatever it was.
Hmm. And that's why in the self-forgiveness work that I do, we separate shame and guilt. You,
Talk
you,
about that.
yeah, you get to separate. It's important to separate. So when I first understood that shame, or guilt is feeling bad for something I have done
Hmm.
that I should or shouldn't have done, right?
Hmm.
In my mind, guilt is that something I've done or didn't do that I feel bad about. But shame is who I think I am because of what I did or didn't do.
Okay, shame is who I think I am
Right.
because
Of
of
what
what
I
I
did
did
or
or
didn't.
didn't do. Fascinating. Okay, that's
Yeah.
to sit with that. Okay.
Well, that's what made sense to me through, going through the teaching and learning and all of that. It was like, oh, okay. So it's who I think I am because I said something or I didn't say something that I thought I should have. That makes me a bad person,
It made me a lesser person.
lesser person.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we can get that, and we can understand, we can separate this. So we do a percentage, like how much of this is shame and how much is this guilt? And then we can work on each one. Okay, let's take the guilt and let's see, am I carrying a healthy guilt or an unhealthy guilt? Did
Hmm.
I actually do something wrong? Did I do something intentional to hurt someone? So example, like that, did I do something like that broke a law? So for instance, if I drive drunk and I hit someone, I can feel guilty. I broke a law. I was drinking, shouldn't have done it. But if I'm just driving down the road, paying attention, and somebody swerves in front of me and I hit them, it's not guilt that I should feel. Yes, I can feel bad for the person, but do I take on the guilt? Absolutely not.
Oh,
But
good
we
point.
Yes,
Okay.
but we automatically go to guilt. We automatically take on survivor guilt. We take on, guilt by association.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
on
Good
all
point.
these guilt that aren't even ours. And so, learning in my training, there's actually healthy and unhealthy guilt.
There's
I'm like,
healthy and unhealthy. Okay. All
yeah,
right. Yeah. Good point. All right.
this is a huge part of self-forgiveness is identifying, wait a minute, I'm carrying this guilt of something that I said to someone, right? I said, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." They don't even remember what I said.
No, that's
But
true.
I'm
Often
I'm
that's the case.
right. It is a lot of the times the case. And I'm carrying this around from pretty soon. I'm a bad person, right? The guilt turns into the shame.
Yes. Okay. All
And
right.
then you go to apologize to somebody, they're going, what? I don't remember
Hmm.
that. What? Okay, whatever. You're forgiven. When you could have carried it for 2 years. It's just, and it festers like a hot coal, right? It just gets hotter and
Yeah. Yeah.
hotter.
Yeah.
And then that just reverberates out to every part of our life. So something that we feel guilty about can actually really encompass every area because I feel like how I do anything is how I do everything. So if I'm carrying guilt,
Hey.
yeah.
Oh, there's so much in this to unpack and think about. Okay, so suppose you have something like that, like you caused an accident, but you didn't really mean to, and what you were driving sober and you didn't break a law, and it wasn't really your fault, but it bothers you a lot, and you think, oh, if I apologize to that person who does live on my street, even they don't know I caused the accident. If I apologize to them, it'll make me feel better, and you apologize, and so all right, suppose I'm the person who was hurt, and then someone apologizes to me. What do I say?
So it depends
Should I
on,
say, oh, don't think anything of it because I don't even remember that? Will I make them feel worse because they got themselves all worked up to apologize?
mm,
Or should I say, oh, I forgive you and make it a big event?
yeah.
What should I
That's
do?
really good. So, depending upon where they're at in their growth period or awareness, it would be so if I come and I'm feeling guilty to you for, hurting you when I didn't really do it. It wasn't on purpose. So, like in your shoes, coming back with me and going, it wasn't your fault.
So
If you want me to accept your apology, I will, but it wasn't, your fault. So please understand that and know that we're good.
should I ever say, I forgive you and make it a big thing so they can feel that
No,
it was a big, I
no,
shouldn't do that.
that's people pleasing and codependent tendencies, right?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to
Yeah,
do that.
that's feeding their ego, right? In that sense. And it also can make it worse because
Oh my
now
goodness.
I know, because they're already feeling like I've already done something bad. Now, some people may want to hear it, but if I'm the injured person to this other person, if I'm aware, I would go, if you need me to accept your forgiveness, I am happy to do that for your healing. See that?
Okay. Yep. All right.
I'm aware that this person needs something. I'm
Right.
going to ask them, I'm going to make it a conversation and go, if you need this, I will do this. But really, it's not your fault.
Okay. All right. That sounds really, it isn't your fault. All right. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a
Yeah.
kind of wholeness making thing.
Because then I can come back and go, oh, it wasn't my fault because
No,
I'm used to taking on guilt. So I'm just right there in my guilt spiral. And this other person's it's taking me up a notch, having me look down at the situation going, oh,
it
I'm not
wasn't your fault.
wasn't my fault. That is a beautiful healing moment.
That is, it sounds really good. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I know.
This is way more complicated than I realized it
I
would.
know it's like spaghetti, right? There's all these ways that we could look at it.
It is. It really
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, but understanding the difference between shame and guilt, and then
Right.
for ourselves, and then looking at, oh, okay, where does this come from? Right? Usually the
Yeah.
guilt can turn into shame. And another thing that I love to remind clients and stuff is like shame is put upon us. We're not born with it.
That's a very important point.
Hmm. Yeah.
When one of the things I've been trying to deal with in prayer and meditation is how we are supposed to look at the crucifixion, given
Um,
the time of year this is.
yeah.
Because I have literally been to the third level where Jesus now is. He shouldn't be in the third level. He should be in like the 12th level, but he chooses to be in the third level so he can welcome people home by the millions of, he welcomes people home. And he told me why he went to the cross. He went to the cross only so he could rise from the dead, only so he could prove to us that there is no death. That's why he did that, actually. It had nothing to do with our sins, which surprised me, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And so I've been meditating on all of that. And he said that the point for Constantine was to shame humankind. That was why all the torture, all the crucifixion, all of that, he wanted to shame humankind and humiliate humankind by humiliating Jesus. So that's apparently a big deal was to the Romans to do that to the Jews.
Hmm.
So when you say that there are some actually images of Jesus specifically trying to show them they were being humiliated. So, and Jesus has just pointed out to me, now do you see? And I do see that.
Hmm.
And we
Yeah.
have to get past all shame. There is no, ultimately, we don't learn from, if we just call ourselves sinners, there is nothing to be learned from that. Growth, spiritual growth is what we're here for.
Yes.
And we are supposed to see the growth in our mistakes, how we learn from that, from each mistake we make. Oh, I watch you doing that even as we're talking. I watch you seeing you're 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 saying, oh, and then you're growing. You're mimicking the very growth we are supposed to be getting from each of these mistakes. Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
The only thing we're ever supposed to say is yes. That's exactly right.
Yes.
There's no point otherwise. Every time we say no, we lower our spiritual vibration. My guide is actually nodding as I'm saying this. There's no point to any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about our growth. That's all it is. How beautiful.
Yeah, and I loved what you shared. Thank you for that, for sharing what Jesus showed you and what you've got to experience. Because
Oh,
it's,
it was just unbelievable.
I bet.
But to hear him say, it was never about sins.
Mm-mm.
God is not about sins. That's a human concept purely.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
what is it? But think about this. Afterwards, I prayed a lot about it because it was so strange.
Yeah.
But what Jesus said was, think about what it says about God. It humiliates God and it humiliates Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so right to say that
Yes.
because what it says is that God can't forgive us. If your child makes a mistake, do you forgive the child for his mistake? Just pick him up and hug him and love him? All right. But God can't do that. God insists that we have to forgive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But God can't forgive unless he gets to watch his beloved only forgotten son being tortured and murdered.
Mm. Ugh.
What does that say about God?
Right. Oh my gosh.
What does it say about God? Jesus asked me to explain that to him. The real Jesus asked me to explain that.
Wow.
And I thought about that for a long time.
I bet.
And that is Christian dogma.
Ugh. That hits me in the gut, right?
Yep, it should.
Mm. It's true. I mean, it's, oh, yes.
No, it did not come from God. No. God is
No.
infinitely forgiving. God forgives
Mhm.
way better than we do.
Oh, my life shows that. Ooh, doggy. Yeah, my life shows that. It's like, yeah.
But the thing is, and here's something interesting. We have watched Christianity, the Roman Christianity, decline year by year by year. But you know what? It has stopped declining. It has stopped declining now.
Hmm.
And I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've loved Christianity for so long, I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm really glad. But I don't know what it means. And I think we have to wait and pray and find out what it means.
Yes.
But that dogma can't survive because it is such a lie about God. The truth about why Jesus died, which was to teach us that life is eternal. He died and rose from the dead. Ta-da! I didn't die, neither will you. That's what it
Right.
was about.
Okay. Yeah, which makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm hoping, my hope is that the stopping of the declining means that people are pausing because we can't take a look at something different unless we pause. Hopefully people are pausing in this and going, is this real for me? The dogma versus truth, right? And hopefully, my hope is that we are stopping and taking a look at what feels true to me. And we can't do that when we're influenced so much by external forces or external information. I really feel at this moment in time, well, all along, but especially now, we are being drawn inward.
I
So that,
think that's true.
through prayer, through meditation, through even silence, through whatever it is that we are being drawn inward, because I can't learn more about myself unless I give myself some space to know. Gall, does that resonate with me or not? And that's the only way that I could come to my own feelings, my own truth. And even then, I am staying curious. No truth is absolute. No truth. Absolute, except for me, that I believe in a God and I believe in love and I believe in that we are all meant to love ourselves and love one another. I mean, that to me is my absolute.
Well, that's what Jesus taught too.
Yes. I mean, that's the absolute. But all these other things that people are manipulating or they're using or, they're trying to change, it's like that I got to sit with and be curious about. Does that feel right for me?
But what I love the fact that, there was a very sharp decline.
Hmm.
In the 70s, even in the 80s,
Mm.
90% of Americans were Christians. It's down to 60 some odd percent, 62%, I think. But there it has stopped,
Huh.
stopped declining.
Hmm.
And that's kind of amazing to me.
It is.
So we'll see. We'll see what's
Yeah.
going to happen. But meanwhile, I think what you're doing, what you're teaching is very precious because teaching primarily self-forgiveness is forgiving other people ultimately. Once we have transitioned, it becomes very easy
Mm.
because, you know, concentration camp guards rather, that killed your family.
Right.
Easy peasy, no problem. And why is that true? Because your family's right there with you when you go through your. It was all a play. We were in a play,
You're in a
everybody.
play. Yes. I love
Yeah.
that. I love knowing that. It's a good reminder. And also, I think your reminder of the life review is really good, that the life review is seen through the eyes and feelings and thoughts of those
Of those who affected.
that
Yes.
those who affected. Thank you for that reminder. And I think a lot of other people will too, because it really helps us,
Yes.
motivates us to go, ooh, now let me look at my life now so
From the
that I don't
viewpoint of the
have that.
people that I have affected. Right, right,
Let me
right.
see who I've affected, whether they think I've affected them or not. There's all sorts of ways of forgiveness. We don't have to confront the other person. There's
All we
all
have to
sorts.
do is think of how they would see us.
Think
How
of how they would see it, feel that compassion for that, write a letter and burn it. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that, because sometimes it's not good to confront the person that we feel that we've harmed. It's not necessarily good for
not
them.
necessarily necessary.
Right, as long as we don't do it out of denial. But what we're doing is the intention is what's really important here, is to really
Yes.
feel how they would have felt to the best of our abilities and do the forgiveness work from there. Same thing for ourselves. Allow ourselves to feel, right? Our grief, our sadness, our anger, our feelings that we hide from, and allow ourselves to really feel this, because if we allow it, the emotions move through in 90 seconds to 3 minutes. It moves through. There's science to prove it. So allow ourselves to feel, allow ourselves to make room for the love that we are.
Yes.
And
That we
then
are.
that we are. And then
Yep.
that is what makes the world a better place. Truly.
Yes. No, it's wonderful. I love what you're teaching. I love the fact that you emphasize self-forgiveness.
Hmm.
And you are our guru of forgiveness, a very important thing. I can't believe the fact that we're already through with our whole almost hour of time. Can
I
you believe
know.
it? Yes, how fast the time goes.
It does go fast with you.
What do you want people to take away from today?
Mm. Self-forgiveness is a foundation. It's a foundational piece of who we are. And that when we can simplify it by just pausing taking a breath, doing a life review like we talked about now. Where do I feel guilty? Where do I feel shame? Where do I feel these things? And be able to sit with that and determine, is that healthy or not healthy? And then move from there. Like there's prayer that people can do. There's self-forgiveness moves. Like I said, writing the letters to the people and burning them. There's finding a forgiveness coach like myself or some other coach to help them through. But the first step is awareness and really determining, is this healthy or not healthy? Because most of the time, what we're carrying is not healthy for
Yeah.
us.
And it feels so good to be finally free of
Oh,
it.
oh,
I mean,
it's
you
amazing.
literally feel physically lighter.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
as if you have balloons attached to your body and you can float around like you're floating on the air.
Yeah, one client just reached out to me and she sent me an email. She says, people have been asking me if I've gotten a facelift, if I've changed my hair. She goes, if I've lost weight. And she goes, none of that. She goes, all
Yeah,
I tell them is contact my forgiveness coach.
yeah.
She goes, because she feels it, but people are seeing a difference physically.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. What you said about liking talking to me,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many of my repeat guests say almost the same thing. But I think it's just because I've been doing this work for so long and it makes me feel so good because
Mm,
so many people like you have helped me to be grateful, to forgive,
mm,
all the things that you all teach, I have learned.
mm,
And that's all I can say is I'm very grateful to all of you who have, so many people have taught me so many things.
mm.
And most of all, I'm grateful to Jesus, who has taught me more than anybody has.
Well, absolutely. You got a good connection. I like that.
Yeah, really so much. Well, I'm so glad to have you here. I'm just going to say a little, farewell and talk about next week, and I'll be back in a moment, my dear. Oh, hasn't that been fun? Oh, I just love Brenda. But once again, my dearly beloved friends, we've come to the end of our time together, and this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us to enjoy this with me. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you get that, when you really get it, it changes everything in your life for the better. And next week, I've got a treat for you. Our guest will be our great friend, Craig Hogan, who will be with us for the 48th time in 11 years. Craig was our very first Seek Reality guest 11 years ago, and he's been joining us 4 times a year ever since. I guess that's about right. I haven't done the math. But anyway, everybody loves to hear whatever Craig has to say. So please be sure to join us next week. And this week we've been talking with our wonderful friend, Brenda Reiss, who is our dear, perfect, beautiful guru of forgiveness. And I think she's sort of our guru of gratitude too. She's our guru of all these beautiful, wonderful emotions that we really need to grab onto and hold tight. Because as we go through life, we are becoming lighter and lighter. So by the end of this lifetime, we want it to be our last necessary Earth lifetime. And Brenda is helping us do that. She's dedicated to helping people overcome the obstacles that hold us back from living life to its fullest by guiding us through, and we haven't done it this time, but next time we will, through our special 5-step forgiveness process. She says that self-forgiveness helped her to transition out of victimhood and into the life that she was meant to live. And just look at her beautiful face. You can see it worked really well. She's experienced all the obstacles that you and I have experienced firsthand. So she's cured herself of those obstacles. And that's what happens. These people who are able to learn and grow spiritually and work it out themselves, then can teach others. Her book is called Forgive Yourself. I loved it. It's a brief book, so you can read it easily. And it's something that once you read it, it really does help you do the work yourself. I loved the book. I urge you to read it yourself. And learn to forgive yourself for everything right now, because you're going to have to do it sooner or later, so you may as well do it before you even transition home. And that reminds me to say that, our great friend Craig will be with us next week as the president and guru of Seek Reality Online, and that's your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. You don't have a choice. You are going to end up living eternally. And so just go to seekreality.com and start to learn for yourself that your own reality is eternal and eternally is beautiful. Like it or not, you're going to have to go there, so you may as well learn beforehand how beautiful eternity really can be. And of course, teachingsbyjesus.com is your best resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher of them all, Master Jesus. Why did I get to meet with Jesus in the astral plane? Because he wanted me to make him a website. And then he suddenly decided, after we had halfway done, that it wasn't time yet to go public with it. So it's there halfway done, teachingsbyjesus.com. If you want to go there, you can go there and learn what we've done halfway, and then eventually we're going to finish it when he says it's time. There's no time where Jesus is now, so I think he has a what shall I say, hazy concept of time, but where he is, everything is eternal, so we'll get it done eventually, or the people who come after us will get it done. And meanwhile, actually, I think it's pretty good, but he says it's going to be a lot better. If you want to talk about anything with me, you always can just contact me through the green contact block on robertagrimes.com. And I answer every email, but it can take me a while because I get a ton of emails. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you in particular are powerful and eternal, and you most of all are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.